When somebody represents the company that most people grew up with, was the #1 smartphone maker in the entire world, and he's here for his first India trip, we can't let him go away without having a chat with him. Welcome to India.
Thank you.
It is your first trip, so I hope we've been really good hosts till now.
So far, so good. I've been working.
Oh, so that's always good, India and work together, but I hope you get some time to see our beautiful country. Now, let's get started with, of course, Blackberry being Blackberry in India. It has been a brand, a legacy, a history, one of the most familiar brands in the world. But in India, we've always loved it, right? But let's talk about where we are today with Blackberry. Let's get started with, I'm sure, most of the times you talk to people, this is question #1. So I'd like to start off a little differently to find out why India and why haven't you come? Let me go with the positive. Good you're here, but why haven't you come for 2.5 years?
Oh, 2.5 years. I've been busy.
Okay.
I think you, like you said, most people around the world, including myself, we grew up with BlackBerry. I mean, way back when you said, oh, as old as I am, you grew up with the rim pager,
right?
Which then evolved into BlackBerry phone. So, I've been with the company 2.5 years, and, I was my mandate was to get the company to repositions, because, the cell phone was a market that we've done very well, and we start losing ground on the cell phone market. So the question is, what do we do going forward? At the time that I entered the scene, we were losing money, and we were burning a lot of cash, and our products were not selling as well as they should be. Mm-hmm. So I have to rethink about a pivot. So in the past 2 years, we were able to repair the balance sheets. We're now generating cash and come up with a new strategy that augment, and I do keywords augment, because most people think that we're out of the handset business and this, that, and that. That is not true. But we need to augment it by going after the new growth area. Okay, and there are two of them. Mm-hmm. One is in the software security cross-platform area, and the other one is in the IoT area. Mm-hmm. And in the IoT area, we particularly focus on transportation. The car industry, they are self-driven cars, the connected cars, in the medical field, and so forth. So, and transportations like trucks and trackers and assets and so. So we have made a lot of investment in those. So the last 2 years, it's been busy doing that. This is the third year. And this is the year when I actually come out to various different parts of the world. I visited UAE before I came here to India. Mm-hmm. And same purpose, which is reconnected with the market, okay. and help the team build, identify the team, and start growing the team. And we're hiring people in India now.
Okay.
So that's the reason. And in fact, one will say that India is one of the first. This is literally a second country on my new program. So.
Okay, so good. So we are smack bang right on top of your horizon. So let's go with exactly what you've said. You came into the company to repivot it, to reposition it, and you've now found some niches you think that you were already great at and some that you think you could enter now. But let's go back to the device business first, and we'll come to the rest. At this present moment, you did a very dramatic thing that you had your first product that was not based on a BlackBerry OS. You came out with a phone which most people completely loved, right? But it was on Android. At what point, and I'd love to be a fly on the wall, when all of you sat down and took that decision, was it a heartbreaking decision? Was it, how do you really redefine when you are giving up what you call the best operating system in the world?
We did not give up, so it would be a very boring fly on the wall. BB10 is still the best operating systems, most secure operating systems, mm-hmm. And we have very, very, very blue chip customers around the world, particularly head of states, governments, major armed forces. They rely on BlackBerry. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, that the government, I guess fortunately, the government are not that big. Okay, so when you edit everything together, the demand is unfortunately much more constrained. Mm-hmm. So then we have to solve the issue of how do I get more people to use our phone? Mm-hmm. When the people are really more focusing on applications. So BlackBerry, because of security, have made a conscious decision not open up for the interface. But when we decided to open up our interface, it was too late. Okay. So then the question becomes, which operating system do you go to? Okay, last time I checked, Apple doesn't have a open systems.
Yeah, a lot of people said Blackberry Apple would be quite a fruity combination, but yes,
that's right.
True.
That would be. So last I checked, it didn't happen. So Android by Google has 80% of the smartphone market. Mm-hmm. So there's a pretty big base out there. Mm-hmm. And the other good thing about Android is it's mainly low-end phones. So there's at least a segment of the market where BlackBerry has always served well, middle and high-end, that nobody really does a lot of things. Samsung does a little thing in there, but Samsung also sells low-end phones for a living. Therefore, we believe with our software combination, with everything we know how BlackBerry does, with the things that people love about the keyboards, about the antennas, about power supply, and about encryption technology, with our software platform, we think that combination going to Android is a winning combination. So, but we have to address and the realization of the fact that we did not have enough apps. But with now being Android, we solve all that in basically one move. Right?
But let's get down to the fact where you said the BlackBerry operating system, BB10, is not over, it's not dead. Is that more optimism, hope from your side? Is that really true?
No. The BB10 have two new operating system releases, but they mostly focus on certification, security certification. So one is in the lab right now, not our lab, government certification lab. It's called the NIAP certifications. One is in a lab called 10.3.3, and that's going to come out, I hope we get the certificates by June. Okay. So it will come out and released in June. It will upgrade all our BB10 devices, the base, and then hoping that we generate more sale on BB10. Okay. And then there will be a new operating system released called, obviously, 10.3.4. That also going to focus on security, and that will come out probably a year from now.
Okay. And are you saying there will be new devices with BB10 too?
No, I didn't say that. Okay. After the 10.3.4, we might consider building new devices. Okay. But I think right now we are doing operating systems releases, software releases.
Let's get down to one of the things that has become a huge focus. It's a story that came from the US, absolutely fascinated the world. But most people forgot in this fight between Apple and the FBI that the true poster boys of the same fight was actually BlackBerry a long time back. You've had all kind of situations with various government and government organizations, and you've always stuck to your guns. So when Apple became the poster boy for we're keeping you secure and we're keeping your privacy, I think they were jumping the gun because you started that whole thing. BlackBerry kept privacy for everybody. But this war now will get bloodier. WhatsApp now goes into full encryption. BBM always was with full encryption and a very, very strong messaging system. How do you see this pan out now? With more companies going full encryption, fantastic levels of encryption codes, and the kind of nefarious activities and terrorism only increasing, is this going to be a real problem in the future, and how would you handle it?
Yeah, it's going to be a real problem in the future. Notice that I have been reasonably, so I have been vocal, even when I was the CEO of BlackBerry, I have been vocal about this whole issue of privacy versus security.
Right.
And I wrote a blog, I believe, or make a speech once, I forgot. We do so many things, I forgot. But this is about the whole concept of you have to be a good citizen first, and then a good businessman second, a business person. What it really is called out right now is the rules, the public policy of various governments around the world. Many, including the most advanced country around the world. Okay. Mm-hmm. That policy has been written hundreds of years ago. Correct. It's been involved. Okay. What he didn't do is address the latest, maybe the last 15 years, of encryption trend, social media, and personal privacy. It has not caught up with it. Mm-hmm. What it really talk about is it really needs a global private-public sectors collaborations. Somebody need to define, somebody need to define what is the rule. Where is a happy medium? What a continuum is. On one continuum is the government gets everything to know about you at any time they want it, whether they have any needs or not. That's one continuum. Well, of course, nobody advocates. You and I would never, that's not a
True.
society that
Absolutely,
we want.
yes.
Or you go to one extreme that it was so locked down that all us people, that we created a key and immediately erased the key, and there's no way for anybody to does anything anytime whatsoever. And we refuse to provide any data to the government and let very bad things happen, bad actor happened. That might wipe out cities, do really very hard, things that it would be chapters in the history that everyone will want to forget. That conversation never happens. It was only, publicly stated, this person wants this and that agency didn't like it and all that. I think BlackBerry has a lot of experience in this. As you probably remember, before my time, in India, the very country we're sitting in right now, okay, there was a whole discussion of lawful access. Not long ago, I had stood out his position with a neighboring country here, that I will withdraw from that country if it's a mandate that we share all informations. Okay. So you could look up the archive.
Right. No, I know what you're talking about.
So, unfortunately, at the very end, we stand down. Right, both sides, get to a good place. So, I'm a strong believer of protection of people's information. I also a strong believer we need to keep our society peaceful and safe.
Okay. But you then have your feet firmly planted on both grounds. So which way, you're saying, and you made a very important point, very redundant, outdated laws being used today for solving current problems, and a real debate has never really happened as to where we are with technology as well as terrorism today. So what's the solution, even if it's something far-fetched, even if the debate is yet to start? Where would the middle ground really be? Because you talked about the two extremes, both don't work. What's the middle ground?
That really does need a more thoughtful sit-down discussion on the middle ground. But absence of that, because even if everybody sit down and talk about it right now, given everything that happened in this world, it takes many years.
Correct.
I'll be too old at that time. What had been happening with Telecommunication Act around the world is that the police or the enforcement people does have, if they have the proper reasons sanctioned by the court, they are allowed to go back and retrieve your SMS. Okay. That process, which related to lawful access, is a workable process. It's a slow process. It's a workable process. The enforcement agency, the law enforcement agency, doesn't like it because it seems that there's a lot of red tapes. It takes time, and how do they know who they really should follow and all that. But at the same time, we also need to protect the privacy of the individual. So I still maintain, in the absence of any law that was collaborative, that we should just follow lawful access.
Okay. So you are saying that if the correct situation presents itself to the court and the court was to mandate that you should be able to give that information, the information should be given.
Exactly.
So then you are saying that Apple should have given the information to the FBI when the court mandated it, more or less.
If I were Apple, I would do it, but I'm not.